Hey family, it's Tasha, Mama Bear Prepping. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel. If you are new here, thank you for joining us. I hope you guys had a blessed weekend. We had a very busy weekend, We finally got our chicks. We got a bunch of the rain barrels set up, so I'll be able to show you the two types that I like to use on Wednesday's video. And let's just get into it. So if you were not here last week, I announced that this week we're going to do everything that has to do with water. See, water for some reason tends to be pretty complicated. It doesn't need to be. I feel like when you watch a lot of videos, it tends to be confusing. A lot of times people will bring in very big topics that have to do with big machinery, expensive stuff. And I just want to talk to you as a real person about water and how to make it as safe as possible to drink. Okay. That is the goal, is to be able to get water and then make it safe to drink. Okay. Now, I want to start off with a little bit of background on me and hubby. Okay. Just to kind of set the tone of, I know what I'm talking about. Okay. I also want to talk about the schedule for this week, the topics that we're going to talk about, so that when you're in the chat today answering questions, you'll know that certain topics, maybe specific things about water that you want to know about, you'll know which day to tune in. And then we're just going to get into it. So for those of you that want to skip the whole intro of me explaining my background, I'll make sure that I put in the video where you can skip to get to it. Okay. Basically today, we're going to talk about water treatment. We're going to talk about making water safe to drink, the different evolutions and things that you would do in order to make water safe to drink. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about water illnesses, right? Waterborne illnesses, like foodborne illness, but waterborne illnesses, how to treat that type of thing, things to think about. And then we'll get into the rest of the week. So the rest of the week, today's really water treatment. Tomorrow is going to be filtration systems. So I'm going to go over like store-bought stuff like my Berkey filter. We're going to go over homemade, do-it-yourself watering filter systems. We're just going to talk all things, crude filtering systems, homemade ones, ones made from natural elements. So we're going to talk everything to do with filtration. On Wednesday, I'm going to bring you back for the premiere for rain barrels. I'm going to go over my two favorite ones. And so we'll talk about how you put those together, where you could place them, the purpose of the different types that I personally like. But it will be all rain barrel stuff. Okay. Thursday, we're going to talk about containers and storing. So different size containers. I've done videos on this before, but we'll reiterate different container storage sizes, how to store water long-term like that. Again, we'll go over water treatment of that before you do that type of thing. Friday premiere, we'll go over sourcing water. This is another really, really big topic that we're going to bring in a premiere so that we can really talk about sourcing water, procuring water, getting water from another place, wherever you're getting it from, and how to make it safe. Okay. And then Saturday, I'm going to bring you water products. Really, that's just going to be like an all-inclusive grocery list of items. It's going to kind of encompass different things we're going to talk about today and throughout the week, but all in one video so that you have one local place that you can see a grocery list of, for those of you that like lists, like, hey, get this stuff. Okay. So let's get into the background, you guys, real quick. So obviously, if you've been watching us for a while, you guys know that me and hubby both have a military background. We're both in the Navy. A lot of people assume if you're Navy, that means you were on a ship, you're on the water. But nothing could be farther from the truth. And neither one of us have really seen extensive ship time. We've both seen ship time. We've both been out to sea and been on a ship. But the majority of our careers is on land. So for me, my I guess tours had me stationed with what's called the CBs. That's a construction unit. And what's really cool about them, you guys, is it's literally units that fly to their locations. You literally can point at the dirt and they will build you a city. Okay. Physically build you. They have builders, construction workers. They have utilities men. They have basically the plumbers, the electricians, sanitation, the shower guys, all of that stuff they have there. And they literally can set up shop, point at the dirt, and we have a full city, right? maybe not a city, but you know what I'm saying, right? 100% effective camp that is ran on our own resources and our own abilities for doing that. Okay. Hubby specifically, his job had to do with water treatment, sanitation. So anything from toilets to water, shower, drinking water, making it safe to drink, that whole realm. Okay. And me, I was stationed with them for more than half of my career. I joke with people that I'm a dirt sailor because I have a lot of boots on ground time. I have a lot of Iraq time, that type of time where we flew to our location, combat time. And again, these Seabees go in there, pointing at the dirt, pointing at the sand, pointing to a desolate place and saying, hey, build it up and make it to where it's safe for us to live and procure water and get it safe for us to drink. And so he's very well versed in this area, as am I, because we do a lot of cross training. Everybody has to know kind of everybody's job in this type of setup to be successful like that, where you could just point somewhere and say, make a town, you have to have everybody. So I have experience with helping with showers, helping with the toilet system. I have experience helping with putting up barbed wire, defensive. That's where all my defensive tactical background comes from, right? So just a little bit about us so that you understand why today and this week I can talk so strongly about water and making water safe. Not to mention hours and hours of research, because we were the preparedness type. We've always been this way. And so understanding water and preparing water and making it safe to drink has always been on the forefront of our preparedness, thing that you could think of, right? That we've always thought of is important. So we've made sure that we've taken care of it. Okay. All right. So let's get into water, right? So hubby has this saying that all water is contaminated until it's not. Right? You are to assume that it is not good. Now, and today, right now, we have tap water. It is to be assumed for most part, people trust that tap water. They're trusting their city systems to make it clean, to make it safe to drink. It comes out of the tap and that they can drink it. Okay. Some people have gone a step further and have some sort of filtering system that they'll filter it through, right? And then they drink it. They trust it, right? Bottled water that you buy from the store. Average person trusts that water. Trust that company has procured that water and made it safe to drink and has put it in a nice bottle for you, and you can literally open it and drink it. Okay. Another assumption that, hey, water from free flowing natural ways, right? It's being filtered naturally through the earth, and it's not stagnant. It's not sitting, and it's safe to drink. Okay. Now, the thing with assumptions is assumptions can kill you, okay? And it only takes the right situations for that to turn deadly pretty quickly, okay? Are those assumptions right now probably okay to make? Sure. Another assumption is people thinking that only certain pieces of water treatment are enough. Again, it is why people with straws, any kind of life straws, any of those really quick go bag type filters, or even big filters in their home, folks think, hey, I get a filtering system, I'm good to go. That's all I need. SHTF hits, I'm going to filter my water, and I'm safe, right? What happens if you have to get that water from somewhere? They think that they'll just put it in the filter it, and it will be safe. Second misconception, some people think that you can just boil water and it will be safe. Oh, all you have to do is boil water, okay? Now, this is the thing about water treatment. Depending on the scenario, where you got the water, is it contaminated? How dirty is it? All these different variables, pieces of that, yes, could be beneficial for your water. Filtering is a piece of that helps with making the water safe. Boiling is a piece of that helps make the water safe, okay? And depending on the situation, one of those pieces could work, right? Water tablets, right? Tablets, chlorine, bleach, that type of thing, treatment could make water safe to drink, okay? But it's contaminated until it's not. And what can you do to totally and completely, as close as possible, make sure that water is safe to drink, okay? And that's what we're talking about today, okay? Water treatment. Water treatment to me means you are collecting the water. Once you've collected it, you've strained it. Now, this is not filtering. This is just straining it, right? Getting the big solids off of it. You do this even with rain barrels, right? There's a basic filtering system on there. It's not really a filtering system. That's just a straining system to get the big things, leaves, big clumps of dirt, whatever, right? Big stuff. After you strain it, there's really three major things that you're doing, okay? You're filtering it, you're boiling it, you're treating it. And then once you've done those three things, you're testing it at some point. And then once your testing it is done, then you're either deciding what you're doing with it, whether you're storing it, are you storing it for short-term, long-term, are you disseminating it, right? You're giving it out, what's happening next? That's basically the water treatment. Now, if you go to anywhere, let's just say you go online and you're like, I just want to see what the water treatment system does. They have a few other steps that they're doing, right? Because they have the money behind them to do these other fancier things. Are there machines out there? ROPU machines, reverse osmosis, purification units. There's different things out there but are expensive, right? That can make water, any kind of water, kind of safe to drink. Water treatment facilities that are ran by your city, they have some of these other elements that just the average person doesn't make. If you follow and just make sure that you are filtering, boiling, and treating your water, and you're doing that, that is your ability as the average person, the everyday person, to make water safe to drink, okay? But don't forget that there's aspects that you need to do, all of them, to make it safe. Now, again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, because this is not black and white, that if you only do one of those things, your water won't be safe to drink. But the thing is there's a big difference between right now, life, and a survival situation where you are getting water possibly from another source that is not the regular source, and you do not know if this water is contaminated. You treat all water as if it's contaminated. That's to include rainwater, right? People catch rainwater and they're like, well, it's coming out of the sky. It's fine. But guess what? To me and my family, it is contaminated until it is not, okay? You do not know what happens. Free flowing water, oh, this is fine, this is beautiful, this is coming through the earth, and it's free flowing, and there's no way an animal still could have died upstream, got a drink of water, died, and that water source has a dead animal upstream just laying all across it, and you're downstream talking about you're some kind of survivalist, like, oh, it's fine. You cannot assume. You assume that water is contaminated until it is not. Okay, meaning you have treated it. Okay, you have filtered it, boiled it, and treated it. Same thing, the biggest thing that happens in SHTF to be assumed is going to happen is water is going to be contaminated with fecal matter, whether that's human, whether that's livestock, or whatever it is. You have to know that goes up when chaos is happening. All these things are happening. If the grid is failing, there's no bathroom systems, especially, there's all these things, there's no water, whatever, all that stuff starts to break down. And so you can assume that all water sources are contaminated and you need to make it safe, okay? My family, we will be filtering, boiling, and treating regardless of the situation, right? Something as simple as a rain barrel. You're catching water off of a roof line that you have no idea what is falling. Animals are pooping on birds are pooping on the roof. Maybe animals are getting up there, squirrels, whatever, dying, pooping, whatever. You have no idea of the stuff that's falling out of the sky and getting on your roof line and is just going into your water or getting into it other ways, okay? You just have to be vigilant about the importance of what water treatment means and what you need to do to make your water safe to drink, okay? You're boiling and you're treating because you are killing microorganisms. You are killing pathogens, bacteria, viruses, right? You need to kill off everything, and that's like a 1-2 punch. By doing both of those things, you're killing all that stuff, right? Food, or I keep saying food, waterborne illnesses, you're doing a 1-2 punch to kill that stuff. There's stuff that is resistant to chlorine, right? And so boiling has a better or bigger effect on certain things. Or maybe its contact with the chlorine needs to be longer, okay? The longer you have contact with chlorine, the water does, and you're able to let it sit, the better, the better your chances are of making that water safe to drink. Okay, safe drinkable is 2 parts per million. Now you can have it higher than that. Some people get very, I don't want to say paranoid, but they over chlorinate, which is fine. You can do that, but you have to have the ability to test. 2 parts per million is the safe zone. If you go more than that, hey, you can drink it, but you're probably going to have diarrhea. Okay. You're probably going to be in the bathroom. You know, out in the field, there's so much stuff that goes on with the water, procuring it, holding it, you know, treating it. And then, you know, there's expiration dates because chlorine off gas, you know, so eventually you don't have the chlorine anymore, depending on how long it took you to use the water. Sometimes it's over chlorinated, but you need to drink the water. So, I mean, stuff happens, literally shit happens. And, so that's what would happen. Okay. And that's why it's important for you to have a tester so that you can see as you're doing these different, ways of treating it, right? Whether that's chlorine, you know, you got your bleach, you got your calcium hypochlorate, whatever it is, the product that you have for that purification, tablets, whatever, you know, you just got to make sure that you so you can be able to tell the parts per million. So having a good tester to test your pH, test your parts per million, so that you can know when something, whether it needs to have something added to it or, you know, needs to off gas, you know, needs to be less. Boiling it does take does speed up off gassing, does take out the chlorine. So knowing these things overall will help you with this. But as long as you know that, hey, it would behoove you and your family when you do not know where a water source is coming from, or you do not know what has happened, to assume that it is contaminated and then do the things that you need to do. Filter and boil it and treat it. Okay. Can you just treat water and not boil it? I mean, it's possible. Absolutely. Right. But the 1-2 punch is better. Okay. Filtering is getting all those solids, those dissolved solids, right? That stuff that is dissolved, you cannot see it with your naked eye, but it's still in there. And so your filtering system is doing that. The fancier filters are better because they can filter faster. They can filter more of that dissolved solids. But it's not that the smaller filters are horrible, right? Any kind of filtering system is better than none. Absolutely. Okay. But that's the difference when you start talking about these bigger, fancier filtering systems and why. Okay. But super important. Boiling. Let's talk about boiling. Boiling, you need to boil at a rolling boil for at least 5 minutes. You will see all types of numbers all over the internet. I'm going to link a Department of Defense technical bulletin that has to do with water treatment. I'll put that in the link below for you guys that like to read it, but it has tons of calculations depending on the treatment source you're using, right? Whether it's chlorine, whether it's calcium hypochlorate, and it will get into all the calculations and different things that you need to know about treating water, right? In that manual, it talks about 5 minutes at a rolling boil. Okay. So that means it's just like kind of when you're canning food, you have to wait till it's a rolling boil and then start the 5 minutes. You'll see all types of stuff on the internet talking about 20 minutes. I saw some stuff about just boil it for a minute. Do not do that. It needs to boil for a while. Chlorine, like treatment, when you're treating it with tablets or chlorine, whatever, however you're treating it, when you do that, you need to treat it and then let it set for 30 minutes. Okay. The longer the contact though, the better the outcome. Okay. But 30 minutes is the minimum. And then 2 parts per million, is where you need to get it at. Let me look at my notes real quick, you guys. Just so I make sure that I'm talking about everything that I want to talk about. We talked a minute about, water, borne illnesses, E. coli, salmonella, stuff like the big stuff that you've heard over the years, cholera, typhoid, those big things, right? Chlorine will fight those things. There's some stuff that is resistant. Giardia is resistant to chlorine, right? So that water if you assume or suspect that Giardia is a thing in your area or whatever's happening, then you need to prepare to have that water sit longer, right? And you're wanting to boil, you're wanting to do all the things and not leave anything out, to make it as, as safe as you can possibly make that water. Also, part of this is prepping the things to make you safe should you get sick, because you get something in the water, some kind of bacteria, bad organisms, virus, from fecal matter, different stuff, and you're drinking that and you get sick, there is some serious illnesses that happen. And so I would urge you to do the research on this stuff. Research the different types of illnesses. Giardia is a pretty common one. Let me tell you this. There is holistic ways of treating stuff, right? Activated charcoal is a huge thing. Mint, basil, what else? Cloves. There's a lot of different holistic stuff that is beneficial for treating waterborne illnesses. Okay. Another thing is, if you look anywhere and you're like, hey, how do you treat this? Well, it's antibiotics. I had somebody the other day say, I've never needed antibiotics in my life, and I won't need them now. And so they were basically saying, because I was talking about Jay's case, and they were like, why would I need this? Why would I prep this? That's a lot of money, and I'll never need antibiotics. And I would say, sir, ma'am, I don't know that I would just trust that, especially if you're in a totally different scenario than you may have ever been in your life, right? With an SHTF, total chaos, total, destruction of, life around you, and you're just trying to survive. And you might find yourself in some situations where you have infection, you have things going on with your body that you need that extra bit. Okay. So I'm going to talk about, different things. Jay's case, if you look at, one of the number one antibiotics, the top antibiotics for treating Giardia, there's one of them in your Jay's case. Okay. I verified, I looked, it's in my Jay's case. Okay. So there's different things, that would be helpful to have in your preps to ensure, hey, I have a little bit of help if I did run into some areas. Okay. And the link for Jay's case is below in the description box. If you haven't got yours yet, I think that it is important. And this is just another example of a situation that could pop off that you could possibly want some antibiotics. Another thing that I'm just going to say, the I, the V to the mectin, right? You know what I'm talking about? That was real big during this last pandemic. I'm not, again, not a doctor, I'm not going to advise. I'm just going to put it out there, right? Natural parasite killer. Okay. So things that you would give, that are on the market for killing parasites and stuff could be beneficial. Okay. So we won't go deep into that medically. I just want to make sure that, you guys are thinking about, in general, before we kind of push into this week of water and the different areas of water. We're going to dive into this stuff a little bit deeper, but it's important that you guys understand that you are possibly going to be getting water from places that you can't trust, that you don't know. And we're going to talk about that on Friday, different sources. And how, because I get questions all the time. Can you drink out of a river? Can you drink out of a pool? Can you do this? Can you do this? And I've gotten to big arguments with people about whether or not you can make water safe to drink from these sources. And I will argue that you can make water safe to drink if you know what you're doing. Okay. And if you do water treatment, like I just discussed with you. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a few of the different things and different aspects, though, that make those different water sources different between them, right? And extra things that you need to think about when you are talking about those different resources and sources for getting water. Okay. I think that water can be a pretty scary and intimidating topic for people, but if you know a little bit more, knowledge is power, and just knowing a little bit more than what maybe has been put out on channels in the past, like, oh, just get a life straw and have that in your preps. And then people think they're done and they don't even prep water in their home or anything because they're like, oh, well, I'm done. I have a life straw and I'll just get water wherever and I'll just be drinking out of that straw and I'll be fine, right? And that's not the case. And also people who think you just need to boil, that could be, okay, 9 out of 10, boiling's gonna get it done. Okay, especially if nothing crazy is happening. But I would venture, if crazy stuff is happening, you need to go a step further and really be treating your water and give the 1-2 punch and make sure that you're doing everything in your ability to make it as safe as possible. Okay, all water is contaminated until it's not. Okay, my family, we do not drink the tap water right out of the tap, right? We filter it. We're now, obviously, I'm just like you. We're not boiling the water. I'm not treating it with anything extra. We test it from time to time, though. That is our, what we're doing, okay? We filter it, and then we are testing it from time to time. But we're going to be just like everybody else. If something gets in the, whether that's an enemy or something by accident happens and the water gets contaminated or whatever, I have to hope that we will be able to catch it, but we may not catch it. And then how can I make my family better if we do get sick? Okay. Get this stuff in your preps. Start thinking about water. I would urge you to do your own research this week. Start taking your own notes. Start taking your questions. And then as we move forward, hopefully we'll get everything that you want answered this week, right? And just went to it with the water information this week. So I hope you guys are well. This video wasn't super long, but it was long enough, and I will see you guys tomorrow on the next video, which will be filtration systems. We'll talk about do-it-yourself ones. We'll talk about store-bought ones. We'll talk about filters a little bit deeper, and homemade natural type filters as well. All right, so I'll see you guys tomorrow on the next video. Take care. Bye.